very shy kid when I was growing up. I was that boy that would be in the classroom, often hiding in the corner. And when I was called upon, I would stutter, I would sweat, I was worried. I didn't want to be the center of attention. So a lot of times
Hello, Roger.
Hello, Patricia. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Absolutely.
Great. I'm so happy to have you on the Break Time with Patty show.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes, not as happy as I am, but yes, I'll take it. Dear friend at home, Roger is a speaker I came across while I was binge watching the World Championship of Public Speaking that just this past August 2021. When I started interviewing different award-winning speakers or Toastmasters members a few months ago, I thought to myself, I have to invite Roger. You need to hear his story. And lucky for us, he agreed to come spend some time with us. So thank you so much for accepting, Roger.
You're very welcome.
So without delay, who is Roger Caesar? Hope you're sitting down for this. Really, he is an award-winning international speaker and professional coach. And in this year's World Championship, Roger took home the third place honors, placing him top 3 in the world. Let me give you some background if you happen to not be in the Toastmasters world. We had about 360,000 Toastmasters members worldwide in 2021. 30,000 contestants literally battled for the title of a World Champion of Public Speaking, which is a title that transforms lives. Roger has competed in and won contests at the club, division, area, district levels until he made it to the top 3 in the world. And just in case you missed it, that is top 3 out of 30,000 outstanding speakers. Woo! His dynamic and charismatic style have taken him on stages all over the world, from TEDx to Speaker Slam, from corporate events to personal coaching. And he is a 5-time Toastmasters district champion. And he is a 4-time semifinalist at the World Championships of Public Speaking in 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2021. And finally, today, Roger is a motivational speaker who helps others to develop their speaking skills and maximize their greatness. Woo!
That's a lot.
I know, right? praise God for all those wonderful things. I've talked enough. Let's get started. Roger, can you tell us a little bit about yourself when you were a young boy, a teenager, and a young adult? What was it like to be in his sneakers?
Well, first of all, I would say this. I was not that much of a speaker, so to speak. Very shy kid when I was growing up. I was that boy that would be in the classroom, often hiding in the corner. And when I was called upon, I would stutter, I would sweat, I was worried. I didn't want to be the center of attention. So a lot of times when I was growing up, I shunned away from that aspect. And when I got into high school, it was a bit of the same thing, but I was into track and field. And I would dive heavily into that, and I would allow the success that I was having in my track, on the track, to be my voice. And a lot of people started to see me through that. And again, still shy, started to open up a little bit more because of the notoriety that I got within the track world and around the area. And of course, in school, started getting to be a little bit more vocal, but not as much. And it started, I guess I became very rebellious many times, just like other teenagers. You get to a point where you become very rebellious. And I had a lot of trouble sometimes when I was growing up in my late teens and into my 20s. And I think that transformed me a lot into the person I am today. But yeah, that young boy and that teenager was a very shy individual, and literally, if I didn't know you, wasn't going to talk to you, and then if I did know you, then you just get a verbal onslaught of who I was.
Yes. Wow. It's so funny. Everything, it sounded like you were talking about me right now as a girl, because I was very shy and definitely stutter. I still stutter now, not as much as I used to, but I totally relate. I could feel what it was like to be you. So with the insecurity that comes with it, but thank God sports saved you though a little bit, right? It gave you a break. So
It did.
yes, that's
I really, really enjoyed running track. That was something that I loved. I did that all the way until I reached my university and college years. So an injury is all that had stopped that from me going and pursuing that to a different level. But that's life, right?
yes.
Sometimes the journey and the directions that you think you're going to go on often will change, and you have to learn to pivot in those moments. So.
Yes. Do you still run right now? Like sometimes, can you run?
Oh, but I still stay active. I mean, I've always been one that continues to keep myself in shape, and I obviously work out. Those who know me would often say that I'm a little crazy because I start my day at 3:30 in the morning, and I start working out at 4 o'clock, finish at 5, and then start my day. I'm a morning person, and then my day doesn't end till sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then I got to do it all over again. So that's always been who I am. Uh, and I've always been in sports of some kind throughout my life. So sports has been a very intricate part of who I am as well.
Yes. Once an athlete, always an athlete.
Always.
Awesome. So at this point now, okay, so what was the turning point that made you decide to go visit a Toastmasters club for the first time then?
That's an interesting story. And I've talked about it before, but I'll say it again. When my parents, we have a family-owned business, and when my dad and my mother retired about 11 years ago, 12 years ago, and I took over the company, there were certain aspects that I had to learn. And one of them, especially when I give my dad a lot of credit, my dad was the type of person that when he walked into a room and he opened his mouth and spoke, he literally captivated an audience just by the way he spoke, held the attention of people. And I always admired that about him. When he would walk into an office or when he would walk into just family and say something, people listened, people heard him. Sometimes he talked too much, but that's just my dad. And I think that seems to have trickled down to me now. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, I always admired that about him because he gained the respect from others, especially in the business world. And when I took over, I had to walk into these offices and now become the owner, so to speak. And one incident happened where I walked into a brand new supervisor who had just taken over in one of the companies that we have been working with for well over 30 years. And when I walked into his office and I tried to introduce myself, he just stood there. And what felt like 5 hours of standing there, it was only like 30 seconds, but it just felt like he just looked at me with his eyes. And then finally he said, "Thank you." And I tried to strike up a conversation with him, and I realized very quickly that he was an introvert. And I had never experienced anything like that before. So when I left his office, I went back to my office and closed the door, screamed a bit, said some things I shouldn't say and cannot say here, and then realized.
Come on.
And then I realized that I needed help. And that's when I looked it up, and the first thing that came up was Toastmasters. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. Looked up an area, one of the locations that were very close to me, went there, and instantly, just from the reaction of the members there, the way they welcomed me, and then the overall atmosphere of the meeting just had me hooked. And that's when I joined. I think they joined after the second visit. But I knew that this was the place for me to be.
And what year was that?
That was back in 2010, 2011.
Yes.
February, actually, coming up. So February of 2011 is when I first started.
Wow. It's such a world. Like, we need to be Toastmasters. We need to be part of the club to know what Toastmasters mean. But I'm clearly very passionate about it. Because, when some people ask you, you run into people, how are you doing? I'm great. I just started doing this thing called Toastmasters. And what's that? Toastmasters. So I was getting so annoyed with people asking me, what is Toastmasters? You know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And I actually have to give you credit for that, to be honest, because it was after that binge, because I was sick, right? I had a cold, and I was homebound, and I would have never had the time to watch all the, how many days there are, how many speeches there are, but I sat through the whole thing. And then I realized, oh my God, there's so many amazing, impactful speeches or speakers. And only one of them gets to the top. Okay, there's 3 that end up on this podium, and you were lucky to be one of those, but so many stories are unheard. They're heard within the club level, but what about all the other people? Because your messages are powerful, which actually we're going to take me to our next question. But I said, I have messages, and even if it helps 2 or 3 people, or particularly women I'm trying to help, but 2 or 3 people, I'm fine just outside of the Toastmasters world. This is why I want to this is why I'm doing those interviews, to get the message that Toastmasters changes lives, literally. It's
and congratulations. And congratulations to you for doing what you're doing, stepping out and doing something positive that is helping other people. You maybe realize it or don't realize it, and this goes for everybody, that you never know who you're inspiring and who you're motivating by the things that you do. And I have seen it with myself and been surprised by the overall positive outcome and results from people reaching out to me. And I'm sure you have it too. So congratulations to you too, Patricia.
Thank you, Roger. Not at the same level as you, because you're obviously on the stage, but yes. And again, it's not about number, it's about the right people hearing my messages. So I'm very happy we're just helping a handful of people. If it could be more one day, sure. But right now, I'm just happy to get to hear your story. So, which brings me to my next question, speaking of your stories, actually. So at this point now, you're a happy Toastmasters member, and you're becoming more eloquent. So what made you decide to start competing at that point then?
That, again, a wonderful story. Sometimes we don't realize how people will impact us in our decisions to go in directions that we go into. When I first did my first speech in Toastmasters, the icebreaker, when I did that speech, I sat down, and a gentleman was on the left side of the room, and he was staring at me the whole time. And he came over to me once we were on a break, and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, you, my friend, you are going to be a champion one day. I could feel it. And I laughed. The same way you're laughing right now, I laughed at him. I said, come on, I just came here because I wanted to feel comfortable in small settings when I go into executive offices and I have to speak. This is the only reason I came here to Toastmasters. I just want to feel comfortable doing that. He goes, I'm telling you. His name is Sanjay Sharma. He's like, I'm telling you, you will. And every time I did a speech, he would sit in that same corner. You look at me and go, I told you, you. And constantly telling me this set the stage for me to realize that, hey, maybe I can do this. It's not what I came here for, but maybe I should give myself a chance. As a competitive person who I am naturally, being an athlete, he started putting that little bug inside, and that kind of fueled me to say, okay, maybe let's try this out. And I remember the first few times, Patricia, oh my gosh, I bombed. Just it's horrible, because I was so nervous and I didn't know how to create the speeches that were powerful enough for contests, right? And I just did things that were close to me that I wanted to talk about. And there was a gentleman there who was constantly winning at the time, and he was the man, so to speak, at the club.
What was his name? You have to tell me his name. Tim? Okay.
His name was Tim Chischini, and I'll never forget him. He had such a suave about him, just the way in which he talked. He had everybody just eating up his words when he spoke, and he was so smooth. And I would often look at him and say, okay, all right, let me learn. And that's the key. Sometimes you gotta humble yourself, and you gotta look at other people, and you gotta try to learn. Well, what is it that they do better than I do? What can I learn from them that can improve my skills? And so I'd watch how he would react or interact with the audience and stuff. And I started learning. And again, I had Sanjay in my head. You'll be a champion. And eventually I cracked it in 2014 after 3 years.
Wow.
That was my first victory at the district level.
That's insane. And you know what's fascinating me right now?
Hard work.
Pardon?
Hard work and determination and drive.
Yes.
That's what it was.
I feel your pain between 2011 to 2014 at this point. That's a lot of work. And one thing that actually amazes me is that you're a Sanjay guy. He tapped you at your icebreaker. Icebreakers terrify humans. Like people wait 8 months once they join a club to even give the icebreakers. I know a lot of people from my club, people are terrified to just, my God, just being judged or being misunderstood or just messing up basically. And that somebody saw the champion quality in you from the beginning, that's like, yes.
Yeah, and I give him a lot of credit all the time. Whenever I talk about my Toastmasters journey, where I am today, I always credit Sanjay Sharma. And he isn't in Toastmasters anymore, but we're still good friends. We often talk. And he's one of those people that often shy away from that public persona, so to speak, and me talking about him. And he'd often say to me, hey, I just tried to push you in the right direction. That's all. And I said, no, what you did was you put that rocket behind me and said, boom, go get it. And that was what it was. So I forever am grateful to him for what he was able to do for me with just those little words and constantly looking at me and pushing me in that right direction.
Yes. He planted a seed, but you did the work, but he planted the seed. So. And actually, I think
he did, and he watered it a lot. Yes. He soaked it. He kept on putting water on it, so that's good.
Yes, and you know, actually, even before Sanjay, I think your father even planted a seed from the beginning. The way that he was, and you were looking up to how he was speaking. I think that the seed was already planted because you watched him growing up your entire life, right? So surely he must have rubbed off on you somehow. You just needed some more work.
Yeah. Obviously, and you're right about that. Watching him and how he was, as I already stated, I realized that his skills as a speaker, his natural skills as a speaker, the way he was able to command a room was something that I wanted when I was speaking. And when I got into Toastmasters, I wanted to learn how to captivate a room just by simply standing there. I don't know if you've ever seen this, and I know I'm going off script right now, but I will never forget, and I just watched it maybe about 2 weeks ago. It was on YouTube, and it just happened to pop on, and I said, geez, I haven't seen that in a long time. Let me watch it. It was Michael Jackson at the Super Bowl. He was the halftime show. Okay. And I'll never forget how Michael Jackson popped up onto the stage, and he stood there for at least about, I'd say, 3 to 4 minutes, just stood there on stage, didn't move. And the crowd was going bananas. And he didn't say a word. He didn't say one word yet. He didn't move. He didn't do nothing, just stood there. And for your listeners, if they've ever seen it, chime in afterwards when you do say that. But it was one of those moments that I remember, and I said, you know what? That's how I would love to be when I get into a room, where it's like, you don't have to say anything, but people know that you command and you demand that type of respect and stuff. And I've seen it with great speakers from Toastmasters from all over that just have that aura about them. And it's fun to see.
Yes. It's making me laugh because there are two champions actually that I actually interviewed. There was Ed Tate and Mohammed Katani. The way that they start.
I saw him live.
Oh, you saw him live?
I saw him live in 2015. Well, I was there. In 2015. That was the first time I made it to the World Championships, and he won that year. And man, that's a story all in itself, man. When you see that performance that he did live, and being in that crowd of over 3,500 people, and it was something that I will never forget.
Insane.
Yeah.
So my next speech I'll be doing in my club, I'm just going to show up and not talk for a minute. I'm just kidding. We only have 7 minutes. It won't work, but maybe I'll make it 10 seconds.
But I will say this. I will say this. What you can do, and what I do, is I often, and even if it's online, even if it's online, what I do is they introduce, and then I will stand there for at least, well, 4 or 5 seconds before I start, so that the audience is ready, and then I'll begin. I don't. A lot of times you will see Toastmasters, and they're so quick. They want to get off that stage, so to speak, that virtual stage so quickly. So the minute that the person says their name and then their title of their speech, they're like, "Good afternoon, Mr. Toastmaster," blah, 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 and they just start. I always wait a few seconds and then I get going.
I'm going to write this tip down.
It's my piece
Yes.
of advice for everybody.
My tip number one, take notes. There's more coming. All right. So let me talk very briefly about your semifinalist world champion speech. Didn't see it coming. What a phenomenal speech it was. I loved it so much. I won't give any spoilers, so do go watch it at home. Can you share with us the emotional roller coaster that you must have gone through? Because by then you had competed in 2015, 2016, 2018, if I'm not, and then 2021, right? So at this point, so can you share with us the emotional roller coaster that you must have gone through when you found out that you made it through the first championship round with that speech? Didn't see it coming. Like, were you surprised when you made it to the final 8?
The funny thing about it is I took a different approach this year or last year that I didn't do in the previous years. 2015 was a very emotional year. When you talk about that roller coaster, that was the going down. That was the part of the roller coaster where you're going down. 2015, I made it to the World Championships. That speech that I did was about my grandmother. And at that time, my grandmother was 95 years old. And I wanted to do a speech for her that talked about all the lessons that she had taught me over the years, because she was like the 1A to my mom. I adored her. She was an intricate and special part of my life, and I wanted to just do a speech for her. I never realized I would have made it all the way to the World Championships. 2 days before I was heading to Las Vegas that year, she passed away.
Oh, no.
So I was completely devastated, and I had to essentially do a eulogy for the world to hear when I did her speech. I didn't perform it at the best of my ability. I made mistakes because my head was not there, and I was devastated by everything that had happened. I think the highlight was obviously watching Muhammad in the finals. But for me personally, it was one of the worst experiences I ever had going to the World Championships, and it was my very first one. So the roller coaster ride was really tough on that one. And then, of course, in 2016, I went with a mindset of redemption. I wanted to redeem myself. When I got the opportunity again to make it back to the World Championships, it was just to redeem what happened in 2015. And I felt like I did that. I didn't win, but I felt like I did a performance worthy that I would have felt good about myself. So that was the up part of that roller coaster. I felt okay. I was okay. When I came back, it was one of those feelings like, okay, hey, you know what? I didn't win, but I did a good job. Yeah. And in 2018, I put a lot of pressure on myself. So again, the roller coaster ride. This was the loop. I'd call that the loop part of it. I put a lot of pressure on myself because, hey, you're now a 3-time semifinalist. People are expecting you to do something. And I put everything into it. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I worked extremely hard on that speech. The speech was called Just Breathe, and it's online. I put a lot of pressure on myself with that speech. And when I did not win, I was so angry. I remember saying that to myself, you know, we're human. And a lot of times we try to do the best we can as human beings, but there are moments when you just sit there and you question and you're confused. And I said, I just could not figure out what I did wrong. I thought I had it. And so I was very upset with myself. I was angry. And then I'll never forget, and I got to give another person credit along this journey, a lady by the name of Jacqueline Payne, who is an past district director of District 86. She was there and she saw me really upset and hurt about the results in that semifinals. And she walked up to me and she said, hey, put your head up. Put your head up. You go out there and you congratulate everybody, and you be proud that you are one of 100 people that made it here to the World Championships, and you stand proud. And I remember looking at her and I said, you know what, you're right. You're right. You know, I went out there and I did the best I can. And you're amazed when you start to see how many people come up to you afterwards and start raving about your performance or raving about your speech and how it meant to them. And I had so many people doing that. And that's kind of what opened my eyes to say, okay, look at the big picture, Roger. Look at the big picture behind it, not just a small one. And that's where it all came from, was what Jacqueline said. In 2021, I decided no pressure, no nothing. We're going to go and have ourselves fun. As small as that three-letter word is, I said, I am going to go out there and have fun this time. I don't care if it's 4 times that I made it here. I don't care if I'm, representing District 86 and you've got to, Roger, do something. It's your 4th time. No, I'm just going to have myself a lot of fun this time. And that speech, didn't see it coming. I put a lot of fun into it and enjoyed myself tremendously performing it. And I think that was the difference. That was the turning point. So I was very confident. To answer your question in a long-winded answer, I was very, very confident with myself with that speech, because I knew that all the antics that I put in it, all the facial expressions, all the movements, and the message was one that really, really would resonate with people, and they'd have a lot of fun watching. So I was very confident, and I felt very good about it. But it was all because I decided this time around to have fun.
Yes. Such a little word, as you said. But there's a lot of power. Basically, what you just said is you surrendered into a higher power. Like you when you just decided to have fun, but it's really not in our control. We all have our time for things, and it's easy to say with words, but I really believe that things happen when they're supposed to. And why do we keep fighting them? Like we want to keep control, and I want this like this. I'm the first person to say this. Like sometimes I'm trying to take over, and then I forget, no, you know what? I'm going to let God take over, and I'm just going to, just follow, and then you'll go where you're supposed to be going. So I love
You made a good point there. Can I say that? You made a great point, because that is exactly what I learned throughout this entire process of going to the World Championships all these years, is that when it's your time, it's your time. And there's a reason why maybe that particular moment wasn't your time, but it will come. And if you continue to believe that, then, the sky's the limit, as they say.
Yes. Believe it and keep putting the work. All right. So now we've made it to the championship, the World Championship speech. Is it in you? Mm-hmm. Which I will encourage the audience to go watch. Here's the link. And it was, I must say, one of my favorite ones. Okay. I rewatched it, Roger. I'm not even joking. I think I told you this like 10 times. Don't worry, I'm not a stalker, but it was just so good.
No.
And I watched it for different reasons, but then I did that with all the champions. I'm telling you right now, this is why I've been inviting champions, because I've been binge watching them for like months. Like, instead of watching Netflix, I'm just so passionate about Toastmasters. I want to hear your stories. So yours for me was phenomenal. Like going in, I told this in the Verity interview, like going in, I was rooting for somebody from my district. There was also Daryl Pace and Verity as well. Like I'm pro-woman as well. Your messages, you and Errol, and there were so many amazing people. But at that moment, that's what it was. But by the end of the top 8, I have to say, like, you were like at the top there. There was Verity, there was you, and there was Daryl. I'm not even gonna lie. But everybody was so good, but you were up there for me for many reasons. And I'm gonna just mention a few without giving any spoilers. I will say that about your Is It In You? I'm from Caribbean. I am of Caribbean descent. Okay, my parents are immigrants from Haiti, and you're from Grenada. And I loved that you integrated your parents and your sister into your speech, and your accents and the way you were imitating your mom blew my mind. Okay? And everything resonated with me. It wasn't the same accent, obviously it's off, it's not the same, but it might as well be. And like your mom was my mom. And and when you talked about your sister, I have a love and hate relationship with my brother. He's 1 year and 5 months younger than me, and he's been a pain. You know, my entire life has been a pain. And when you're talking about your sister that was annoying you, and I was like, oh, you're talking about my brother.
Yep.
And anyhow, I digress. Your speech was phenomenal, and I thank you for this amazing ride that you took me on. Can you share with us how you find your themes, your stories, and what motivates you to share such inspirational and uplifting messages with your audience, please?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind words with regards to the speeches. I appreciate that. I've gotten so much love from all over the world with regards to those speeches. And just like you, many people who have reached out to me and said, oh my God, that resonates with me because I had a sibling who had to follow me around, or that resonates with me because I was that sibling that followed my older ones around and had to go with them. And so to me, it was wonderful to have all these different views from people from around the world and reaching out with the positivity. It was so much fun. First, I want to say something with regards to that speech. I created that speech, and this goes to show you in context with it. I created that speech 4 years ago. I wrote that speech about 4 years ago. The very first version of it was done then. And I had created it because I was hoping to use it at the World Championships in 2018 if I had made it to the final stage. So I was creating that speech for then. It didn't happen, so I kept it. And oftentimes, speakers will say that. Even the champions will often say that they always had these speeches that were sitting there and they waited for the right moment. And it wasn't the right moment in that time. Was the right moment this year. And I got on stage there and of course online, and this was obviously a different element of it being online. So I had to redo it so that I can capture the same attention from the audience that was no longer going to be in person. So that was a challenge for me, a positive challenge that I took on, and I love that. Where do I get my inspirations to do this? Life. I often tell people that life happens, and our stories, our personal stories, is what absolutely motivates and inspires people, because then they can see the authenticity in you and who you are as a human being. You know, your stories are the gateway to your soul and the pathway to an audience's heart. And that's the key to understand that. So when I create these speeches, I'm often putting in elements and experiences in my life that have happened. Now, I try to have some fun with it, with my sister. That was a huge thing. And these are all true stories. Everything is a true story, right? It happened. She was a pain in my side. I didn't want her to come there with me, but my mom said she's going, whether you like it or not. And I won't do any spoiler alerts. I'll let your audience go and see it. But it was a fun thing, and we have often laughed about that. And I love the fact that I can inspire and motivate people with my stories, because they can see who I am, the inner side of me, my vulnerable side. And I think that's important, because that's how you connect to an audience. If you cannot connect that way, anything that you say in your message, whether you tell people to do this or do that, or go out there and get this or go and do that, they won't do it because you haven't done it. Why would I do it? Yeah. Right? So telling your life stories, whether it's embarrassing, as it was for my didn't see it coming speech, whether it's embarrassing or if it's funny and laughable and serious, as my story with my best friend and myself in my final speech. It's important for me to share those, because that is what allows the audience themselves to connect with me through my stories, and then look at their own lives and say, where are these same elements in my life? Where was it that I waited until it was too late, like my semifinal speech? Where are the times when I've done that and I need to fix things? Where was it where I was able to share my greatness to somebody that I didn't realize I was doing it to? And seeing it from my perspective and what I've been able to do and sharing it to the audience allows the audience now to say, let me see where in my life I have to do those changes, or I have to make those movements. So that's why I always say life brings you stories. Life.
Absolutely. Yes. And yeah, because often people think, like the good storytellers, somebody that went on a hike and tripped and fell off the mountain and then had 3 broken bones, and now you got a good story out of that. No, like everybody I speak to, every champion and like you that I speak to, they always said it's in the little moments, and it's every day. I started like a kind of journal where I just take notes of a story-worthy moment from the book Story Worthy. It's amazing.
hmm
I
I
believe
do
in
the
that.
same thing.
Yes.
I do the exact same thing. I have my notes, and anytime I see something, this is where your audience, people out there have to understand, open your eyes. If you are a speaker, if you're a Toastmaster and you're maybe be starting in Toastmasters or just wanting to learn how to speak, open your eyes, look around you, see the things that are happening, the small things. It doesn't have to be big moments. It's the small things. You see somebody fall and another person quickly runs over and helps them up. There's a story there. There's a story that's to be told. There's a message there about being kind, being helpful. Little things like that create big stories. So I'm always looking and I'm always writing these things down. And if I hear something that I thought was amazing that somebody said, I quickly put it in my notes because I never know when I might use that in a particular speech. Have you done that too? You've done that as well?
Yes. You think like a champion, Roger. You think like a champion. You are a champion. But you have a champion mindset because you never know. It can always come in handy, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Speaking of this, what advice can you share with the future Toastmasters contestants to help them on their journey to try to become world champion of public speaking? Like something you wish someone would have told you when you first got started in 2015.
Well, I think that I just touched on it right now. When you are creating, a lot of times I hear Toastmasters or people that come up to me and they'll say, Roger, how do you figure out your stories? Like, how do you get your speeches? Where do you go? I don't have anything I can talk about. And that's when I say, you look in your life, look within yourself, look within your life, look around you, keep your eyes open. That's where you find your stories. Do not be afraid. Take the key that you have all these stories locked up in behind your head here, open it and release some of those stories, because here is your next tip that I'm giving you. The reality is it's not about entertaining 100 people in a room. That's not what you should be doing as a speaker. It would be nice. It would be great if everybody in the room walks out there and they go, wow, because as speakers, we always want to leave them wanting more. But what is really important is that one person that's in that room that comes up to you after everybody's left with emotion on their face, tears maybe in their eyes, or a big smile because you made them laugh or you made them feel good, and walks up to you and says, oh my God, I needed to hear this today. You have no idea how important your speech was to me today. That, for me at least, and I'm pretty sure with other speakers they'll say the same, but for me, that is a success. When I come off stage, whether it's virtual or in person, and somebody can come up to me afterwards or send me an email or come up to me in person and say, my goodness, I needed that. This is exactly what I needed. I'm going through this. I'm going through that. Can I share a quick story with you?
Yes, we have all the time in the world. Do share.
This was a few years back in person. I was doing a speech, and the theme of the speech, the theme of the speech was about your fears, facing your fears. And I talked about an incident that happened to me, a very funny story, but it was a scary story at the same time. And I talked about from the fact that we have to accept our fears and try to change it so that we can take that fear and fuel it into motivation, into inspiring, into learning how to accept our challenges. There was a gentleman in the room when everybody left, and he walked up to me and he said, I wasn't going to come here today, but your pictures were posted all over the office here, and they were talking about you coming here, and I didn't know who you were, but I figured, okay, I'll come and see who this gentleman is. And he said, I am so glad that I came here. At 4 o'clock today, I'm supposed to be going to my lawyer's office and divorcing my wife, signing papers to divorce my wife. Because I always blamed her for the demise of our relationship. I always thought it was her fault, and I thought that there was no way we can repair it. After hearing your story about fear, I realized that I was the one who was afraid of what I had become. I was the one that was blaming her for my fears, my insecurities, the things that were wrong within my life that that I did not deal with, and I put it on her. So today, I'm going to go to that lawyer's office and I'm going to tell her we are going to reconcile and try to work things out. And it's because of your speech. What? To me, that is the success of going to that meeting. It's not everybody that patted me on the back and said, "Oh my God, loved your speech. You're so amazing. You're great. Loved it. Wow. Absolutely great. See you later. Goodbye." No, that guy. It's that guy that had something going on in his life and he related it to what I was saying. And the greatest speakers, including my good friend Verity Price, who won this year, has stories that sometimes you will often hear people come up and say, I needed that. I needed that story. My stories that I did in the World Championships this year, I had so many people coming up to me and reaching out to me and saying, I'm going through that. I had that happen. Thank you for sharing. Those are the moments for me as a speaker that resonate and stay with me and are right here in my heart. Those are the ones.
Yes.
So if you are a speaker out there, understand how valuable your life lessons are. And don't be afraid to share it because you think somebody's going to laugh or not understand. Share it because you know that there will be somebody in that audience that needed to hear it and they wanted to hear it. And that's what will change their own lives, possibly from where they are right now to becoming a better and brighter part of their life. That's all it takes. That's all it takes sometimes.
Everybody say amen. Amen. And I have to say, Roger, I lost 2 family members in December just now, and one was closer to me than the other, okay, let's say, but and it really broke me, I have to say. And I sort of went in productivity mode because I was trying to coordinate funerals and everything. And I haven't come out to talk about it yet because I'm not prepared. You know, I want to keep it emotionless here, so it's not the place for this. I need to work through my grief. But I follow you on LinkedIn, on social media, and you posted a short video on, you called it Just Breathe. And I watched it, and I have to say, like, it literally made me cry. Like, I became so emotional because I realized since that person died in my arms that I had not breathed, not once. And it was the first time in weeks that I actually managed to breathe. So this is the kind of impact that you have on people. And this is why I thank you for this.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And my condolences to you and your family as you go through the tough time.
Yes.
But yeah, again, you never know who you are inspiring and who you're motivating by what you do. And hearing this now, that's that one person for me, right? You, that made me realize that what I did there meant something. So thank you.
Thank you. And the funny thing is, it was not even a world championship speech or a semifinalist speech. It was just a post. So imagine the power of words.
It's funny. It's just funny. I had a situation happen with me, and that was an unedited, unscripted, one take speech that I just did. I literally came into my office, put out my ring light, put my phone in there, and I just did it because I was so emotional at that moment. And I said, no, I got to get this out. and I'm only doing it in one take. So whatever happens, it is what it is. And I did it, and then of course I got a friend of mine just to put some music in the background to kind of give it a little bit more flavor. But that was raw. That was raw, and you're not the only one who had reached out to me, and I had a lot of people commenting afterwards on it. But these are the things that I love doing. I love going out there and just putting out inspirational posts, messages, just things that I feel will help my audience, will help those who are following me, will help the masses, so to speak. And when that happens, then I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part in moving people forward throughout their day. And that's all I care about.
Yes. And making the world a better place, because that's what you're
Yes.
doing. One
Yes.
one speech at a time, one word at a time.
Mhm.
Okay, so this brings me to my next question. You're an extremely busy man. As you mentioned before, you took over your parents' business, so you're the owner of Caesar Transport Inc. And you recently celebrated your 38th anniversary in business. Congratulations. And you help make businesses more efficient and profitable by delivering products in perfect condition and on time. And so ultimately what you want is to make your clients happy and help their business succeed. So since you've made it to the podium in 2021, just now, how do you reconcile running your business and speaking? Do share.
Well, as I said from the beginning of this interview, I get up at 3:30 in the morning, and I don't finish work till everything until around 10 or 11 at night. The beauty of being online, I don't know if this could have been possible if it was in person. And again, we get back to everything happens for a reason, as we stated. But the reality is that because we are online this year, or since the last few years now, I think it has been a blessing in disguise for me. While I still have to be at my office runs itself. My staff has been extremely good during this time. They watched what I do, and they've been extremely supportive. And they continue to run things within the office here. So there's not a lot that I have to do. I continue to just maintain and delegate, so to speak, whatever is necessary here and there. And then I transformed one of my offices into a studio so that I could use it for my speaking. And they've been very understanding. So when I have something to do in the daytime, I often have to step outside and go, everybody, hey, no words. If you have to say anything, text it to each other. I'm speaking in that room. So they're very understanding with regards to that and stuff. And that's how it's been able to work. So when I was doing the World Championships, I was here in my office, and I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing in that aspect. Now, do I want to be live again? Yes, I would love to be in person. It's nothing beats being in person, right? But I have been able to balance both of them because I do it all in one place. It's all right here. So it's easy for me to do that. And it's been wonderful to meet people from all over the world since winning. I would have never had that opportunity, or I would have had an expensive flight bill, having to go to all these different places. And I would have done it. But at the same time, this has been great because I have my Zoom passport that is filling up like crazy. Right, I have a Zoom passport that's filling up like crazy, and in fact, in the next couple weeks, I'll be visiting Turkey, and then I'm going to be heading to Malaysia, Singapore. There are a lot of places that I'm getting an opportunity to virtually visit, and I love it. So it's been fun.
Yes, and there's one thing I cannot relate with that you just said. I've never been in person since I joined Toastmasters in May 2021. Never, ever have I given a speech. I don't even know if I would be capable of delivering a speech in person. So I'll have to adjust whenever the world goes back to something that looks somehow normal to what you're talking about. The joy you're feeling when you were able to applaud Mohammed Katani in the live room. And I would love that one. It has to come back one day, right? So I'm really very excited about that.
We are hoping.
Yes.
For sure.
And all right, so we're wrapping up here. What is the next step for Roger Caesar?
Well, I wrote on my mirror in my bathroom 3 years ago. So when we were 2019 going into 2020, I wrote on my mirror, Roger Caesar International. That was what I wanted. I said, I want to be able to visit the entire world and to be able to speak everywhere in the world. And then, of course, the pandemic happened during that time. But thank God still that I have been able to virtually do that. And I want to continue to get out there, share my messages, share my inspiration, inspire people, be inspired by people, and motivate them to find their greatness and to live to the best of their ability. And for me, that is what I want to do. Continue to go out there and absolutely dominate internationally by inspiring and motivating people and having them inspire and motivate me to continue to do what I'm doing.
Yes, yes. Roger, I'll be your cheerleader. Yes. And finally, if someone in the audience would like to reach out to you, what is the best way?
Okay, there are many ways you can get me. I'm going to give them right now. Number one, you can go on my website, rogercaesar.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also connect with me on Instagram. My handle there is Caesar, CAESAR .empire. And you can email me if you are requesting a speech or wanting me to come out and visit or wanting me to come to your organization and talk. You can reach me at caesar.empirecoaching@gmail.com. Go to YouTube and watch my videos. Go to YouTube, watch all the videos. Subscribe to my YouTube channel as well.
Yes.
Have fun.
Absolutely. You want to do that. Listen to the man. I'm following everything he does. All the information will be in the description. And also, I've always attached the links whenever we were talking about it. So it'll make it very easy for you. You cannot go wrong. It's all here. My main takeaways are that Roger joined Toastmasters to improve his skills when interacting with executives. And look at him now. He's top 3 in the World Championship of Public Speaking. He is an amazing and impactful motivational speaker who helps others to develop their speaking skills and maximize their greatness. And the main tips that I got from him today were, number one, have fun. Have fun with it. Don't take it so seriously. And that's really the first place to start. Second one is to try to touch people's hearts, basically. Try to move people and touch people more than you would try to entertain them. And is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Roger?
I'd like to say this to the audience. Understand the value of your voice, what your voice brings. We see it all over the world. And as speakers, we often come out to entertain and to motivate and inspire you. But the reality is that you have a voice and your voice is valuable. Use that voice for positive change. Use that voice to positively move people, communities, and the world in the right direction. You've seen it around our world today, things that are going on all around us. Be the voice for reason, for change, and be that person that will positively inspire others to find their greatness and maximize themselves as individuals and as human beings. Go out there, step on stage, and make it happen.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you. I cannot wait to rewatch this. I know I've just hung out with you, but I will be rewatching this interview. That's how good it was.
Wow.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Roger. What a pleasure it has been. And
Absolutely. I've had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time here. You are amazing. Congratulations again on all that you are doing as well. Keep up the good work, please.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much, Roger. And my YouTube
welcome.
friend, thank you for watching. And I hope that getting to know this wonderful man has touched you as much as it has touched me. And I will leave you with this. The power of your voice can change the world. Find it and use it. Until next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.